I rode every single ride at Cedar Point in one day. Or at least I'm going to try. You see, Cedar Point has the second most rides in a theme park, meaning it is, of course, for lack of a better word, huge. And some even say it is impossible to ride every ride in Cedar Point in one day. But there is one problem with that. I am very stubborn. So, I want to test that out myself. There are, of course, some rules, though. I don't have to ride any rides that cost extra money, like Frontier Fling or Slingshot. I don't have to ride any of the water park rides. I can't ride any of the rides with a maximum height, because I am taller than 5'4". And I don't have to ride anything on the app labeled Unique Experience, because they aren't rides. That leaves me with 50 rides in total. I'm also bringing along my friend, so I don't go insane. Or, well, we could both go insane together, I guess. But we'll get there when we get there. And speaking of getting there, there is one problem. I don't live anywhere near Cedar Point. So we need to go on a little 7-hour long road trip. Oh god. And that is all the car footage I took. Mostly because I was tired, and most of it was field anyway. So, if you want to see more field, become a farmer. Anyways, we stayed at Cedar Point for 7 days, and I'm only going to talk about the day we speed ran Cedar Point. I'm only doing this because if I added all of the days, it would probably bore you to tears. And also, before we start, I will be ranking every ride. Oh yeah, by the way, most of the roller coaster footage I have here is from Cedar Point's YouTube channel because they have a very strict no recording rule, and I wasn't about to be kicked out for a video on the internet. I'm not a prank channel. So, with all that being said, let's go. We stayed at Hotel Breakers, meaning we had early access to the park. So, of course, we took advantage of that. I mean, we have to get our money's worth somehow. There are 7 rides that open during early access, and 3 of them are big rides. So those were our top priority. So, we ran to Millennium Force first. Millennium Force is one of the biggest, fastest, and smoothest rides at Cedar Point. I am a big roller coaster fan too, so this was great. And one heck of a way to wake up. And speaking of waking up, power walking all the way across the park to ride Gatekeeper. But that was all worth it, because Gatekeeper was so good. First of all, your feet are dangling, which is fun for roller coasters. And it goes upside down, which is only fun on roller coasters. Both of those are very nice, but the best part was at the top of the lift hill, where it slowly twists and drops you. That drop is so epic that it sets the mood for the rest of the ride. It's so amazing. Now for the last of the big early access rides that we needed to get done with fast. Wild Mouse. Wild Mouse is new to Cedar Point, along with the new boardwalk area itself, but Wild Mouse is a fun roller coaster for families. It's kinda like Primeval Whirl if you rode that before it closed at Animal Kingdom. Rest in peace. I mean, it is the same concept. It's a roller coaster, but the cart spins. It can be a bit rough at times if you're sitting by the edge of the cart. Your head is ramming into the plastic that they have there, I'm guessing so you don't get whiplash. But that doesn't work because now you just have whiplash and a minor concussion. But I digress. The ride was fun, and the theme was better. Seriously, the carts have names. There's Ziggy, Sacky, Dizzy, Maisie, Chase, and my personal favorite, Larry. He reminds me of Mancell Towing, and to me, that is hilarious. Or you can have the boring cheese cart that the mice are chasing. There are still 4 more early access rides, and the next one is Dodge'em. You get it? Because it is a bumper car ride, meaning you dodge people. And yeah, that's all it is. A bumper car ride. With a pun for a name. But too bad for them. I don't dodge people in bumper cars. I run into them at max speed. Ah, Matterhorn. A beautiful mountain of the Alps. I definitely didn't look that up. Well, how do you like it now? This is Matterhorn. A ride that goes sideways and spins. That is it. That is all it is. It's basic, to say the least. The rest of the rides that were open at the time were state fair rides, including the last one, but the last two of them are in the scrambler category. You know, the rides that spin. Not like Matterhorn, because then it would go sideways. No, it only spins. It's supposed to scramble your brain, hence the name Scrambler. And Atomic Scrambler, yep, I just explained what this is. It spins. That's it. And Calypso, it spins, but the seats are shaped like cars. And those are all of the early access rides. And lucky for us, it was a bit after 10, meaning the park was officially open. Meaning, we got to ride another Scrambler. Troika is, well, yeah, another Scrambler. But what is this? It goes into the air. Okay, I have to give this one credit. It was fun. And for yet another ride that spins and goes into the air, Max Air. And yes, I am underselling this ride just a bit. Max Air flings you very high into the air and spins to give you a different view and to just be fun. When you go up, it's either flying straight into the sky or plummeting to the ground at an alarming speed. Overall, it's a fun ride, but please do not ride this with a full stomach. I mean, just ask the people who went on the ride a few minutes before us. They did not have a good time. Now for a little break. I think we're due for a nice, relaxing ride. Like Windseeker. Now you might be wondering, relaxing? It's called Windseeker. That sounds pretty intense to me. Well, all it is a ride that brings you very high up to get an amazing view of Lake Erie. And while it does that, it spins around a bit. Overall, it was pretty soothing. But it was starting to roll around to 11:30-ish, meaning we were hungry. Luckily, one of the best places to eat in Cedar Point wasn't too far away. Chickies and Pete's was some of the best food I've eaten in a theme park, period. The restaurant says it's the #1 sports bar in the world, and to me, it is. And no, this is not a sponsorship. I just really liked this food. Now that we got that out of the way, carousels. Carousels are the most classic type of attraction you can get. And my god, the Midway Carousel is the textbook definition of carousel. It goes up a bit, down, and spins. It's a carousel. Now, carousels might be nostalgic for some, but for me, I'm nostalgic for rides like Ocean Motion. I grew up with a boat ride that swings up and down like this. I mean, that's all it does, but I am going to be very biased. Now, before you say anything, I was also surprised when Sky Ride was listed on the website as a ride. But not only that, but on the app, rides have a thrill level on a scale of 1 to 5. 1 being the lowest, and 5 being the highest. So, someone please explain to me how the gondola ride has a 3 thrill level. That's like a ski lift getting a thrill level of 3. Who gave it this? Whoever did has obviously never wrote it, because it is just a way to transport you a bit further into Cedar Point. And speaking of transportation, Cedar Point and Lake Erie Railroad, yes, that is the official name of the ride. And yes, if you couldn't tell by the name, it's a train. It brings you behind the scenes of a few rides and even brings you through a frontier town in which you get shot at by skeletons, and that's fun, I guess. Now for the evolution of ocean motion. Skyhawk. Yeah, now instead of being in a boat, your legs are dangling, and you are going way higher. And by way higher, I mean max air level of higher. So you remember those state fair rides from earlier? Well, time for another because Wave Swinger is a state fair swing ride. And yeah, they swing. So what can I say? Now for a mistake. Thunder Canyon is that kind of water ride that you ride with your families to see who gets more soaked. And that is fine. But when there are only 2 of you and you need to walk around a lot afterwards, it's a recipe for disaster. But who am I kidding? It's fun. The other people were nice, and we got yelled at afterwards for kind of standing up to dodge some of the water. But it wasn't really standing up. It was like scooting forward a tad. Like I wasn't going to get hit with a full tsunami if I didn't need to, you know what I mean? But yeah, we still walked out absolutely drenched in water. So, after that, experience, we needed something to dry us off that wasn't way too overpriced like the family dryers. And lucky for us, there were 2 roller coasters kind of close to us that just might do the trick. Iron Dragon is kind of like a roller coaster, except the entire track is upside down. Ooh. Well, it's because you ride in unique carts that swing from side to side when the ride takes a turn, and it's actually pretty fun. I mean, it isn't as good as something like Gatekeeper, but it's still good. Rougarou is the hidden gem of Cedar Point, and I am sticking to that. It almost never has a line over 5 minutes long. Not to mention, it's a big roller coaster. It goes upside down in a loop right after the first drop. That's amazing. The only downside was that it banged my head a bit, but put heavy emphasis on a bit, because this ride barely slammed my head against the restraints. I don't get why no one else really knows about this ride. Is it because it blends in with Iron Dragon, or is it just overshadowed by Millennium Force just steps away from it? Because I don't get it. This ride was outstanding. Well, I am no longer soaked, that's for sure. But for good measure, Power Tower. Now, Power Tower is your average drop tower ride, and some lore about me, I guess. I hate drop tower rides. So, as I sat there in the seat, waiting to be launched into the stratosphere, I was absolutely terrified. And then it happened. As I was launched into the sky, I thought, this is not that scary. Yeah, Power Tower is not that bad at all. I was scared for no reason, and looking back, Power Tower was a pathetic drop tower ride. Then we went to the ride next door to Power Tower, Super Himalaya. Super Himalaya spins and... Wait, no, it just spins. And not to mention, it is just Matterhorn, just without the going sideways part. And since we were riding rides that were close to us, we rode Magnum XL 200. That name is trash. And speaking of trash, this entire ride was absolute garbage. How can a ride made of steel be so rough? This thing was only good for simulating brain damage. These past few rides have been intense, kind of. So, to balance everything out, a nice boat ride sounds nice. Like Snake River Expedition. Okay, I will be serious for a second. The boat ride was nice. The person was kind of funny, and the ride has some animatronics that are nice. But I went here a couple years ago, and this ride was so much better than what it is now. The story was better, there were actors dressed as bandits that boarded the boat and stole gold from a passenger chosen at the start of the ride. It was a full show that they put on. It was so much better. Now, it's a ride about touring the river to look for a new house. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. After that sad realization, I needed something to cheer me up. And there's nothing that could cheer you up more than Snoopy, if you're from the 1950s. And oh, look there! It's Balloon Race! Now you might be wondering, Wolfie, why are you riding that? It is obviously for kids, right? Well, you are right. But this ride, and a few others, are classified as family rides, meaning there is no height limit. And trust me, other people were thinking exactly what you are thinking, because the looks we got while on this ride were devious. Not to mention the employees on this and the other kids' rides complained more than a Discord moderator when their mom tells them to go take a shower. Like, I know, you have to be around kids all day. But, man, that's no excuse to complain to them about gas prices. But since I'm taking this challenge a bit too seriously, this is another state fair ride. Except worse. It doesn't go that high and makes me sick with the amount of spinning. And also, I'm removing points from these rides because they have child locks. You know, so stupid children don't fly out the side of the ride. And these child locks need to be opened with a key. Meaning when you try to leave, you can't. The employee has to walk up, probably complaining about dollar stores adding 25 cents to their prices, and unlock it for you. These rides suck. Hey, would you look at that? A swing ride with those stupid child locks that doesn't go that high. It basically lifts you into the air for 60 seconds. Fun. And oh, what's this? Looky here, kids. Your favorite ride. Camp Bus. Okay, for real. Which goofy goober came up with this ride? It only goes up and down while the quote-unquote driver sings the wheels on the bus. At that moment, I started to feel regret. Okay, hear me out. Linus's Beetlebugs is not a kid's ride. It's glorified torture. All it does is throw you around in a metal contraption that looks like half a doom buggy from the Haunted Mansion. At least there were no child locks. Thank the gods, it's a roller coaster that actually moves and... Wait, what's that? It has child locks? Well, I'm going to be serious again. Yeah, I know. How can I possibly be serious while referring to Woodstock Express? Well, this ride was decently fast and actually had a lift hill, which for a kid's ride was surprising, meaning it's going to get a higher rank. Honestly, like an hour had went by while we were in Camp Snoopy, and the rides and the looks we were getting were terrible. So boy was I glad when I saw there was one more ride in Camp Snoopy. And that ride, that final hurdle in our way of escaping Camp Snoopy forever, was Peanuts 500. And when I say Peanuts 500 should have a ride rebrand to Tokyo Drift, I mean it, because my lord, this ride takes the left turns harder than a NASCAR driver. We genuinely liked this ride, which to me was very strange. I was supposed to be in pain, embarrassed, and sad, but this ride is good. And there were no child locks. After we walked out of the treacherous Camp Snoopy, I looked back and not only never wanted to return, but I also found it very funny that I felt so insecure because of a little cartoon dog. Anyways, I wasn't about to ride anything that would get me sick immediately after Camp Snoopy, so we skipped the 3 spinning rides on the outside of the camp and went straight to Gemini. From just looking at Gemini, you would think, oh, that ride is going to be bad. It's made out of wood. Wood is bad. Wood equals rough roller coaster. Well, silly, believe it or not, Gemini is super smooth. Not to mention, it is also a racing ride, meaning you race people. Shocking, I know. The ride's just very good for a wooden coaster, and also there were points on the ride where you could high-five people in the other carts. And that is so awesome. At this point, we were getting hungry. Again. So we figured we would ride every ride on the path to Panda Express. Yeah, Cedar Point has a Panda Express. I didn't know whether to be surprised or disgusted by that fact. And speaking of disgusted, Cedar Creek Mine Ride. This is what you expect when you think of a wooden roller coaster. It was extremely rough, and I guess the builders thought they were very smart when they added 3 fake-out lift hills on the ride. Why? The ride already isn't thrilling. Why would you make it less thrilling by taking out fun aspects of the ride? It wasn't good. But, while riding Cedar Creek Mine Ride, we saw something absolutely terrifying. Snake River Falls was open. It was closed for most of the day up until now, so why did it open then? No matter. Let's have a repeat of what happened after Thunder Canyon, since none of the other rides go quickly enough to dry us off. Yep, that sounds fun. Well, might as well get the ride over with then. Snake River Falls is a log ride, and before we even got on it, we could tell it was very good at its job. Before we got on, there was a pool of water sitting there in the seat. It was an okay log ride. It went up a lift hill and dropped. The drop gets you drenched. It's average, but kind of fun. We had finally made it to Panda Express, and for Panda Express, it was extremely good, even if I didn't get what I ordered. But, while sitting there, I noticed we had only rode 32 rides out of the 50, and it was 6, meaning we had to cram the last 18 rides into the next 4 hours. This wasn't only a Herculean task. This was almost impossible. At that point, I wondered, why did we skip the Ferris wheel this morning? Why did we skip the spinning rides next to Gemini? Are we gonna fail this challenge? But then I noticed, we were sitting down eating. We needed to go. So that's what we did. We ran as fast as the park employees would let us to Cedar Downs Racing Derby. And it was another carousel. Except this carousel was extremely fast. Like, it was actually super fun. We said that the race was a draw, though, because we didn't really know who won. So, I just noticed while scripting this beast of a video that we forgot to ride Cadillac cars. I am so sorry. I thought it was a unique experience. Anyways, after the quick stop at Cedar Downs Racing Derby, we moved on to Raptor. Raptor was huge. It's one of the big coasters at Cedar Point, meaning it should be great, right? Well, hot take, no. Raptor looked amazing. It twists, flips, and goes fast. But then, there's my complaint. It was rough. Every sharp turn Raptor took was one time my head slammed into the restraints on the ride. And the restraints were made of a material that's supposed to cushion the blows of the ride, but it just didn't work. And that effectively turned the ride into a human pinball machine. This ride hurts. Now, for yet another carousel. This time, the Kitty Kingdom Carousel. Great, more shame from riding a kid's ride. And yep, this was a basic carousel. They copy and pasted the Midway Carousel. Why? That's when we noticed there were big rides right next to us, and that's when we rode Valraven. Okay, look me in the eyes. Yep. Valraven is roller coaster royalty. It is the absolute best ride in Cedar Point. Let me give you the rundown of the ride real quick. It starts. You get up the lift hill, and you're surprised by the huge drop, so you prepare both mentally and physically for it, and that's when it stops. Yeah, it stops. And then, for that 10 seconds, your heart also stops. But then, whoosh! Off you go! Flips, fast, fun, and then it tries to stop again. But what's this? It was a fake out! You continue, more flips, more fast, more fun, and then the end. I don't have to say anything more. But every high has its low, and Blue Streak is that exact low. This was one of the only rides that had me say, ow, during the ride. It was the roughest coaster, and that was surprising, because we rode Cedar Creek Mine Ride earlier. After Blue Streak, we looked at the time. It was 9:45. It was over. We wouldn't make it. So, as we stepped in line for the Ferris wheel, we didn't know what we would do. We tried so hard, but in the end... Wait, what's that? That's when my friend said something that would change the course of the challenge. He said the park wouldn't close until 11 that night. And with determination in our hearts, we stepped off that Ferris wheel, and by then, an hour had passed? Why were so many people looking to ride this Ferris wheel? It was a Ferris wheel. And speeding past all the kids' rides that closed at 10, we zoomed to Corkscrew. Corkscrew we thought was going to be closed for the entire day, but it just so happened to be open all of a sudden. So, we rode it, and it was rough. For a steel coaster, this was not good whatsoever. All it does is, well, corkscrew. Yeah, the entire ride is 3 corkscrews in a row. This was so tiring. 10:50. We made it to Pipe Scream at 10:50. The final ride we got on, and it was a state fair ride. Well, I might as well go into detail on this ride. It spins and goes side to side, up and down. Yep, we failed. We tried our hardest, but we only rode 40 of the 50 rides. But if I could take one thing from this experience, it is that me and my friend had a ton of fun doing this challenge. It was the best day we had at Cedar Point by far, and if you plan on doing this, for the love of God, ride the Ferris wheel in the morning. And that's the only advice I can give you. And I am going to thank the internet funny man, Alpharad, for giving me this idea. I got it from his I rode every Disneyland ride in one day video. Amazing video, by the way. And big thank you to Mr. Bucket List for letting me use his footage in this video. I have his channel link in the description. Go and subscribe to him. He is epic. And if you were wondering how I would rank the other rides, well, Steel Vengeance is the second best ride at Cedar Point. I think it's because it's the biggest ride as well. I think. It's fast and fun, and you know the ride's good when halfway through the line, they make you go through a metal detector. You can't have a single loose item on this ride. That's how intense it is. Maverick is great. It has the steepest drop in the park, and it is thrilling. Monster is one of the worst rides ever. It spins, but while it's spinning, the cart you are in is also spinning. Yeah, it spins times 2. This ride makes me sick, both figuratively and literally. Lake Erie Eagles is a state fair ride that is made for kids, and it just spins. I mean, it's alright. And I really don't care about the last 5 Snoopy rides, so they all go in F tier. With that being said, I don't know how to end videos. See ya!